Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of A Candle of the Night, a Star Wars actual play podcast. You are listening tonight to episode number 28. Tonight you will be hearing an adventure of our fearless Wookiee Isshwarr and his companion L3T0 on a little side adventure to rescue a prominent Wookiee revolutionary before he is taken by bounty hunters to the Empire. A few little announcements. If you like the show and would like to help contribute, we would certainly appreciate your support on our Patreon. You can find it on patreon.com/COTN_show. Also, if you would enjoy seeing the artwork, watching the battle maps and the rolls, and generally sharing in the desktop during the game, you can do so on our YouTube channel. A Candle of the Night has a YouTube channel, and every episode is present in video format. That wraps it up for our announcements tonight. We'll get right on into the episode.
Here, backup music.
All right, so since we're here, why don't I have L3T0, Isshwarr, and Kip roll Destiny, please. 1 force dice.
Yeah!
Yes.
Much needed.
Yes.
All right, 3 light side, 1 dark side. Finally denying the GM his chaos fuel. Okay, so
that's ever stopped you before, just so you know.
So what we're doing tonight, it's counting as a normal episode. We're going to call it episode 28, but it's kind of a little opportunity for a side plot. Sometimes it's a little crowded with a lot of things going on, and we did not get to sort of Ishwar's side quest for the rescuing the war chief, Spetogurra. So we're going to do that tonight. And I also wanted to take a little time aside for Kip because he was kind of on the ship by himself doing things. And I wanted to let him kind of address some things on his mind. So now that we have our destiny rolled, any other news from anybody before we get going?
No, not for me.
So I'm going to do our recap of last session, which was session 27. The party investigates Vic's disappearance. Clues are found around the ship due to an astute perception check. Jensa retires to her private chambers and attempts to calm her mind and reach out to the memory of one of the few kind souls that she was able to remember as a child. A force apparition of an elderly Jedi woman, once an archivist at the temple that she was briefly in as a child, appears to her to guide her. The apparition attempts to teach her that fear over what may come doesn't serve her, but instead casts her into self-doubt and self-defeat. She advises mastering focusing on the moment and centering her mind, releasing her fear, and trusting in the Force. When she falters in practicing this, the woman's ghostly form lays a hand on Jensa's head, and she's filled with an instant sense of pure peace and serenity like she's never known. Knowing what this feels like, even for a brief moment, will act as a beacon for her in the future when she is besieged by confusing emotions. She uses her Force sense power and discovers that Victor is indeed alive. She relays her observations of her visions to Isshwarr, who recognizes the description of the captor as none other than Glabo the Hutt, a prominent member of the Bisadi Khajiitic on Nar Shadaa. L3T0 mysteriously vanishes from his teammates. His whereabouts were unclear. He seems to be following his own agenda for a moment. He received the first critical clues to unlocking his origins and purpose from a mysterious figure from his past. The party splits into 2 groups. Isshwarr receives an urgent transmission from Geleth Hawk warning him that a famous Wookiee guerrilla revolutionary named Spetogurra has been captured by pirates and is about to be transported off-world to be sold to the Empire. An opportunity exists for Isshwarr to rescue him if he is able, and, for that matter, for Geleth to settle an old debt. Jensa, Bior, and Tyrus proceed to the Delkino Grand Casino, where they encounter Tyrus's sister, Kushada von Donner. Elegant and formidable, a bizarre conversation ensues that sheds light onto Tyrus's extremely dysfunctional family background. Apparently, Tyrus's sudden departure from his Mune business and politics enabled a childhood nemesis to freeze his assets through an obscure legal loophole by declaring his family negatio ineptus in court proceedings. Both he and Kushada stand to lose everything. Kushada lets slip some mysterious details, including the apparent murder of Tyrus's parents, as well as the mysterious mentioning of a person named Jaren, who Tyrus clearly has deep feelings for. Kushada offers a brief alliance. She asks for Tyrus's help to recover a mine that used to belong to the family, which she has kept off the books. If Tyrus can accomplish this with the assistance of her resources, he can keep the mine and create a stronghold in business. In exchange, after he's unfrozen the family assets by once again proving his command of the business, he must then sign over these assets to Kushada in exchange for cash payment. Tyrus attempts to use the Force to coerce her into a better bargaining position, and he succeeds. However, they both realize that without each other's cooperation, the Von Donner estate is in jeopardy. She grants Tyrus 72 hours to decide. Can Tyrus let go of his family feud to protect his clan's legacy and assets, or does this new path cause him to eschew material belongings? Time will tell now, as the party must figure out how to secure funding for their entrance into the Great Hunt during the opening ceremony by dawn. And while this is all occurring, we now turn to L3T0 and Isshwarr, who will be following the lead to rescue a famous Wookiee. And I turn it over to you guys. Now, may I ask in the beginning, Kip, would you like to begin with what you've been up to before they get going?
Well, at this point, at the end of last session, Kip had successfully repaired the door and also hardened it against hacking attempts that use the same hacking signature. And so he's just sort of like wandering around the ship because he feels the need to protect it as if it were a member of his family. But he's also looking for the box, the holocron, because he has questions because Jensa and Tyrus keep talking to him about the light side and the dark side as if he knows what that means. And he wants to ask what he considers to be a neutral party to explain some things to him.
Okay, well, you, with a brief and cursory search, perhaps remembering before where it was left, you would see the holocron is still in the lounge area of the Errant Seeker.
Yep, exactly where he left it, or last he saw.
So you see it sitting before you. It still hovers about 2 inches off of the table surface and slowly rotates as you observe it.
He sits down in front of it, and he recalls that when they triggered it last time, they concentrated. He was told to concentrate on it, but also sort of let himself go during the concentration. so he's going to attempt to do the same thing.
And as you do this, I would like you to roll for me an average discipline check.
Okay, so discipline is... An average is 2?
Average is 2 purple dice, yes. Okay, so you rolled 2 successes and a triumph, making this seem trivial, actually. Kip, even though this is an art not yet practiced by you, nor even really fully understood on any kind of cerebral level, your recent awakenings inside of yourself of, let's say, powers you weren't used to. Perhaps you grew up as a young man of skill rather than of intuition and mysticism, but this new taste of the Force, which you get, it comes to you now easily more and more often as you are first kind of experiencing it, and you find no difficulty in, just as easily as you might take apart a circuit board or a small droid, with your mind you concentrate and you instantly see the holocron respond. And just as you might disassemble a mechanical object, the facets of the holocron slowly slide away from each other as this holographic pattern on the surface kind of glows like sort of circuit lines would. And it slides apart, and you see a glowing core inside, and it projects outward a likeness of the man you now recognize as Graydon Newen. And he materializes before you and regards you for a moment, nods his head, and says, "How may I be of assistance?"
I'm confused and I need answers. And I'm hoping you will have them.
And as an out-of-character assumption, I assume he knows you by name now. Or by the description, since Jensa has spent some time with this holocron. So I would assume he knows who you are at this point, even though you joined the group slightly later. He would look at you and say, "Kip, what is it you're confused about?"
I'm confused about the Force.
You felt it.
Jagasan... Oh, go ahead.
He would ask, "You have felt it stirring in yourself?"
Yes. It took me a long, long time to believe Jensa, and believe the others when they said what I was doing was channeling the Force. To be honest, I thought that was a bunch of hooey. But I was able to do things on the Rebel ship that goes beyond rational science, and it was the first time ever that I tapped into this Force consciously. I now recognize that I had been doing so unconsciously for as long as I can remember.
You are correct. In fact, most who are Force sensitive actually begin touching the Force and understanding a basic sense of what it is, even in childhood. You perhaps just didn't have access to the education you might have had circumstances of your birth been different. Well, now that you are aware of it around you and clearly have enough command of it to interface with this holocron, then you've begun your steps on a new path. And you will need guidance on this path.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Jensa and Tyrus keep telling me about the light side and the dark side, and they mention emotions, and they talk about these things as if we're supposed to already know what they mean. They keep talking about how the dark side is bad and the light side is good. Yet I have seen Tyrus do things that, I don't know. And then Jagasan has said in the past that all that light side and dark side stuff is just dogma, and that really it's about channeling power, and you either are the power or you channel it, and it's the outcomes that matter most. And I don't understand any of this, but all I feel is that Tyrus and Jensa keep talking to me but not explaining a damn thing.
Well, I think to explain it to you most simply, I would not necessarily spend time thinking about the dark side being bad and the light side good. I think I would just start by understanding that this energy field that you are now touching, just like everything in this universe, exists in a balance. When you build something mechanical and you put all of its connections together and you allow the electrons to flow through its circuits, all of those things are carefully balanced, are they not?
Yes. And if they aren't, you build up resistance.
And when you put something together and you find that you kind of, let's say, put a exactness into the execution of this construction, would you not?
I don't understand what you mean by an exactness.
Well, meticulous attention to detail. I've never been good with mechanics myself, but I assume if you're building a precision device, every part must be carefully measured, every connection must be not touching each other to avoid shorts.
Yes. Yes, down to the micron. Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Well, exactly. The force, too, exists in balance, and just as if it is the energy that binds all living things, there is energy of birth and creation, energy of death and decay, and there's a constant interplay like tides back and forth. In general, if you're beginning to feel this power and reach out to it, without training and understanding, it can sometimes be a dangerous weapon. It can sometimes have the effect of altering that he who wields it. So reaching out to solve a problem, if you do so with a heavy hand and without consideration of the energy and forces that you're wielding, you can act out of balance. And I think just the way you build a circuit or a fine mechanical device, seek to wield the force in a similar way, with a measured hand and careful mind. I don't think, Kip, if you're a man of precision, when you build something, you smash parts together and execute the task with a crudeness and an overpowering nature, do you?
No, of course not.
Then approach your contact with the Force in the same way, with consideration and careful thought, surveying that which you feel before you and navigating it with precision. That's a nice place for you to start because it would feel natural to you.
So approach the Force with dispassion, because only with dispassion can I see, can I have objectivity in in my creation.
Is beautifully put. And I see thinking of it this way feels very natural to you because you understand that kind of dispassionate consideration of a complex system. When you are in a moment of stress and you reach out to this energy, attempt to do it dispassionately, without rage or fury or fear. This is what we teach younglings when they're beginning to learn the Force. It is often when you're swept up in a moment and you allow your emotions to get the better of you is often when the dark side clouds your view of the Force and how you wield it. It often just leads to cruelty and violence and self-service.
So the dark side isn't emotion? Because Jensa and Tyrus make it sound like.
It is not that the dark side is devoid of emotion or characterized by emotion, but most commonly, if you observe those who wield the dark side with mastery, they often use emotion as a vehicle to boost their connection to the Force. Touching the Force, especially the light side, with contemplation and dispassion isn't easy, and it's a very long learning curve to appreciate how to do this. On the other hand, when your life is in danger, or someone enrages you, or you're consumed with jealousy, it's like a way to jumpstart your connection to the Force. It just tends to lead you more towards the dark side.
Is it like saying, is this a good analogy? Emotion, especially strong emotion, is like a substandard fuel. You can use it, but if you use it too much and too often, it will eventually damage the engine.
I think that is a brilliant analogy, and that is exactly how I would think of it. Use a high-grade, high-quality fuel. Consider the longevity of the delicate device that you are using it to power. I think that's a great way to think of it, Kip.
I think I will tell Jensa and Tyrus this. I think they misunderstand.
It's an interesting thing. You are a motley crew thrown together from different cultures, different circumstances. Had it been a different time, you would have had a common culture that you would have grown up together in. We would have identified your gifts at a young age and cultivated them, and you would have had structure. But you've had to survive in an unforgiving world, quite frankly. And it's something of a miracle that you all have come together in the first place. And now that you have, understand that you are very different. And even though you are, you're going to need each other. There are few of us left that have not been hunted, killed, or chased away. You'll need to lean on each other to survive. Don't forget that. So be quick to forgive when you don't see eye to eye. Because you're stronger together than you would be apart in this climate.
Thank you. Last question. I know what the Jedi are, and I've heard, well, I know they weren't the terrorists that I was told they were. But Jagasan used to talk about the Sith. What's the Sith?
Well, Kip, as you may already know, history is written by the winners. Jedi are not terrorists. They merely were perhaps self-focused and blind to the politics of the moment. But Jedi existed to serve others. They might have lost sight of that in the end slightly. Sith were an ancient sect, once Jedi, long, long ago. Perhaps I should say they come from the same common ancestors, but there were wars between the early Force users when they didn't see eye to eye about how to wield the Force, and a group of Force users separated themselves from the original Jedi and developed a different path. The Sith, it came to mean two things. There was a different philosophy about the Force, a different code, a different way of thinking, that it was not folly to eschew emotions, that instead one's connection to the Force would be stronger if you personally were strong, and if you harnessed your emotions, and if you focused on perfecting your strength, often at the cost of others. This alternative view of the Force led to a growth of a group that were traditionally the enemy of the Jedi. They wielded the dark side without concern. They often fought amongst themselves for supremacy at the cost of innocence. They were dominating in their attitude towards others. And for the most part, the Sith were believed to be extinct. Unfortunately, the current Emperor we failed to see was a Sith. And he kept the Jedi blind to his agenda, and unfortunately it was too late by the time he showed his true agenda. Should you run across any Sith, be cautious of them. Their power is great, and they would not hesitate to kill you if you stood in their way. Oh, I should also mention historically there was a race that were known as the Pureblood Sith, and they were sort of the original progenitors of the Sith Order, but you don't see them around much anymore. They were red and had odd tentacle-like appendages on their face, but you may read about a Sith race referred to as pureblood. But usually when you hear the Sith, they'll be talking about the dark Force users. Only advice I can give you is be wary of them.
So the Sith were Force users who specifically cultivated strong emotions to fuel their powers, often for personal selfish gain without worrying about the consequences. Is that basically what you're describing?
Yes. That the primary goal in life was to gain power and domination over others, essentially. Whereas I would argue the primary goal of a Jedi was to serve others.
Is Tyrus a Sith? He often manipulates others.
No, Kip. You'll know a Sith when you meet one, trust me. I don't believe any of your companions would be a Sith, or hopefully would be capable of being one.
But if the entire Jedi Order missed the Emperor amongst them, how would we be certain?
Vigilance? Lack of hubris, I suppose? Look out for each other. Try and help each other. Try and lift each other up. Don't subjugate each other or vie for power against each other. And I think those are reasonable guidelines and should steer you right.
One last question. How do I get Tyrus and Jensa to stop treating me like a little kid?
An interesting question, Kip. Perhaps consider if you treat yourself like a little kid. If you show others that you have a destiny that you follow, that you understand who you are and what you want to be, they will also follow that lead.
I think I know what you mean. Thank you, Master Newell.
I am glad to be of service. And as he says that, the hologram slowly disapparates and the holocron facets slide back together, and it returns to its slow twirling hover over the table.
Kip says, Remus, let's go back to our room. We have some journaling to do.
And Remus gives you an acknowledging beep as you guys move back to the engine compartment to retire in your place of comfort.
Kip data pads Jensa and Tyrus and simply writes, I understand now. And leaves it at that.
Ooh. We shall see what they make of that later. Okay, and let's turn to Isshwarr in L3. Tell me what you're doing. Just to give you a recap so that you kind of have a summary of the information that Geleth had provided to you. You've become aware that in a restricted bay of the local spaceport in Nar Shadaa, that a clandestine transfer was happening at this moment, and basically forces in the Hutt cartels were compensating pirates to capture and deliver a notable Wookiee guerrilla figure to the Empire for reasons that are unclear, perhaps cash payment, perhaps placating the Empire or getting some kind of concessions from them for freedom of their businesses, however it might be. But this was going down now. The pirates were leaving shortly to transport their prisoner to the Empire. You were given the docking bay location. You were told that the only obvious way in, unless you wanted to face an army of guards, was through a sort of loading bay, an agricultural loading bay, and that you were to, Isshwarr, you were to load yourself into a crate marked as live animals or exotic pets, and you would pass through the scanners without difficulty. And any other biologic life form would probably trip alarms.
Yeah, he would be following the direction of wherever that crate was. I mean, I wasn't given specific instructions of where that would.
So in the spaceport, let's see, you would be.
Or who would be putting him in the crate, because that would also probably.
The way, as you understood, the way had been cleared to access that particular loading area. And all you guys would have to do is sort of head over to the spaceport to the appropriate coordinates, and you'd be able to, through that security checkpoint for cargo, would be able to get into the bay you need to be in.
Oh, okay then. Yeah, he would. Think he would have he'd have his bowcaster out when with his vibro axe slung over his shoulder and. Along with the other weapons sticking out of his backpack, as he heads over to this loading dock.
Did we clarify how L3 joined up with Isshwarr, or is he just meeting him at a loop?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You, as far as I understood, I think you guys had a brief interchange where you agreed to meet him. So let's assume that you'll meet outside of Opulus Spaceport, in the central part of Nar Shada's Glitzway Promenade. You would both know where it is because you landed there.
Did he already pass that point, or are we?
No, let's start right there. So you'll be waiting for each other in front of Opulus Spaceport.
I think L3, being a droid and knowing how to navigate pretty well and not getting tired, he would probably be waiting for Isshwarr there at that point. That sounds right.
Okay, I will allow you guys to roleplay your meeting then.
Well, definitely when Isshwarr walks up, you can see the conical head of the L3 unit swivel in the large Wookiee's direction, and he just takes in his attire and current equipment and is like, "You are currently equipped with a modified bowcaster, class Michelle assault cannon, vibro axe, fragmentation grenades, and a C-88 shoulder-mounted missile launcher with fragmentation ordnance. Given your current arsenal, I see a 98% chance that we will be encountering strong opposition."
Love it.
Is that correct, Master Isshwarr?
Pretty much. I'm expecting there to be violence. They have one of my people in a cage. And where have you been? The rest of the party seems a bit perturbed at your absence.
I was investigating an avenue which was very important to me.
They're not the trusting bunch. Quite yet.
Something tells me that you might understand my circumstance better than that.
Well, if it's anything like what we're about to do, I'll understand completely.
There are similarities up to a 45% chance of... Let's just leave it at that.
He just kind of gives a grunt of agreement, and then looks past towards the loading dock and says, "Well, it's not going to get any easier. I suppose we should find our way in, and I don't know what waits us on the other side, other than pirates."
Given my current assessment of your combat abilities, I do not think we have anything to worry. And the central photoreceptor kind of flickers a little bit, as if he would be smiling.
Yeah, what does it look like when L3 smiles, I wonder?
Yeah, his central photo, you can see data, and if data could look happy scrolling across the screen, that's basically what it looks like.
He doesn't
It
flash
sort
a
of flickers
smiley
across in a jaunty fashion.
It's jaunty. Exactly. It's jaunty.
Yes, yes, it's a jaunty flow of data.
Oh, or it could change. It could change font. Something fun.
It's wingdings.
Wingdings. So as you turn to look at Opulus Spaceport, it is an incredibly busy sort of central hub in this part of the city, and you make your way in, and there's basically through the enormous lobby area with these large lofty ceilings and vast open spaces. Think of some of the nicest international airline terminals you've seen, and just coat them with beautiful Durasteel and various expensive woods and lights and things like that, and sort of stretching out before you, hundreds of people moving back and forth. And as you weave your way inward, you kind of start following some of the cargo related area instead of the passenger terminals and things, and make your way into a section in the far sort of back wing where you go into a customs checkpoint. You don't enter the checkpoint, but as you move around it, there's sort of some storehouses and things. And as you enter the area that was indicated to you, I will describe what you see here. You kind of have entered a processing facility for the starport. And there's a number of crates of varying sizes, and each are grouped into categories. You see things like agricultural goods, consumer merchandise, raw materials, live animals marked on different areas. And there's no guards in this area, which is strange, leading you to perhaps suspect that Geleth has gone to some degree of trouble to ensure you'd have access to this area. You do see in front of you a large conveyor, and it passes through a central scanner. And as you observe crates passing through the scanners, each crate stops as this blue ray sweeps across it to scan the contents. And then a green light overhead will flash as each crate is approved for entry. After that, you see the crate then moves into down the conveyor into the next area, and there's this magnetic containment field, which immediately goes up between the crate as it passes, and there's this space in between two magnetic containment fields where the crates can be incinerated if they're found sort of not to be containing what's expected, or if they're contaminated or not meeting safety criteria. And you can hear commotion in the next chamber as there's sounds of a ship being fueled and ready for departure. You hear a number of people talking to each other and such. So that is the room you're currently in. And at the moment, you are standing side by side.
Isshwarr looks at the crate that he's about to get in sighs. And he says, if you are recording any of this, I suggest you not show it to anyone. And he starts to open the crate and get inside, or I might just beat you with your own arm. Second,
there's a pause, and then a little cock of L3's head, and he's like, Out of deference to your feelings, I will not be recording any.
And so you
Good.
Ishshwarr, this crate you're climbing into is marked with a large stencil-like writing on the side, exotic animals, and there's like little holes punched in there for for you to breathe. And it's approximately like I would say a foot taller than you, so about maybe 8 feet tall, and about maybe 4 to 5 feet long.
He's like standing in it, and he like you could see his shoulders droop, like maybe he's been someplace like this before, and he's not proud of what he's about to do, but he's suffering through it. And then he looks at L3 and says, as an added bonus, if we can somehow find a way to make this look like Globo's people did this, it might just add a little fun to this whole adventure.
I can see what I can produce at the given moment. We will have to wait for opportunities to present themselves. And L3 will climb in as much as he can, and in typical droid fashion, I'm sure he can fold himself up into a space-efficient.
He's carry-on sized.
Like
Now-
he can fold down into himself.
Okay, so L3, you're getting into the crate as well.
Correct. I thought
Okay.
that was the plan.
Well, as you both climb into the crate and close it, you sit there for maybe 5 minutes or so, and then you realize that the crate is sitting on the ground and not on the conveyor belt. And you wait for a period of time, and no one comes or nothing changes, and you merely are sitting there.
One moment, I will handle this. I guess that was the 3% chance that I would forget something. And then L3 will climb out of the crate and see about activating this, seeing about loading it onto the conveyor belt.
Okay, so L3, as you move around the room, you have to search around for a moment, and you see a small console. And in each room, there's sort of this ceiling-mounted crane. And I don't know if you've ever played those games in arcades or in some restaurants where you put a coin in and you go and pick up a teddy bear and a little claw. It's kind of like that. There's some ceiling-mounted rails, and you can control it from the screen, causing it to move this claw across the ceiling, and you press some keys on the screen, and the claw kind of descends down, picks up the crate, and lifts it and places it on the conveyor. And as the conveyor rolls forward, you see the crate moving towards the scanner. Is there anything else you want to do in this room before he moves through?
First, can I actually reboard the crate before it goes through the magnet, or is that going to be a difficult challenge?
You absolutely could.
Okay, good, because that's the only way through, I'm guessing. And basically, he would just check for any security devices or recording devices before setting all this into mode.
Please roll for me a average perception check.
Nice.
I think that's a success.
4 successes and an advantage.
Yes, you roll 4 successes and 1 advantage. So with those 4 successes, you do a very astute and careful scanning of the room. And as you do, you kind of look at the various containers and pay more attention to the details of what is in them. And you identify in certain sections of the room, there's like hexagonal barrels almost, and they're dark red in color. And you notice some markings which are universally accepted as indications of something being flammable. And as you look more closely, you can see indications of the contents, and they are filled with a rhydonium fuel. And you would know this fuel to be highly flammable and explosive, but extremely popular for, let's say, getting to where you need to go farther with less fuel necessary. So it's a popular fuel in the Outer Rim for getting from point A to point B with a little more efficiency. It's not the safest to keep around in places, though. You also notice 3 or 4 small stacked crates. These would be about the size of, let me think of what I could compare it to. About knee high, 2 feet by 2 feet. And they're marked with a graphium-99 gas, which you would know to generate a dense vapor when released. Lastly, you do see some sort of indicators on the wall that it's been 242 days since the last accident, and police practice good safety measures. And you see some schematics on the wall that kind of teach people how to operate the loading equipment. And you see it marked with some information that in each of the hangars there is a ceiling-mounted crane which can be controlled to load cargo. And please don't lift it yourself because the union will not be responsible for any personal injuries. And after you've satisfied yourself that there's not much else to notice in the room, you climb back up on the conveyor and open the crate and get inside with...
Well, actually, upon seeing the flammable stuff, and seeing that the room's empty and there are no recording devices, or none that I saw with that success...
There are none.
Is there any way I could maybe set a delayed type of distraction with the conveyor belt? Like, put one of those flammable barrels on it, use like a computer check to activate within 30 minutes or if I don't disable it, and it would go straight into the incinerator and maybe cause a nice little distraction if we...
I would say that given the appropriate computer check, you could write instructions for the conveyor to behave that way. Just basically time delay rollout. I'm not sure you'd be able to guarantee that it would be incinerated in the chamber, but you could set a time delay on the conveyor to
just
ensure...
having it come through would be enough. I mean, like,
All right,
we can always shoot it or explode it.
True, that's probably better anyway.
So specifically the fuel you want to put on the conveyor behind you and then set a program for it to be time delayed.
Why not one of column A, one of column B? We can figure out what we want.
Okay, and are you putting the... let me be specific so I know. Are you putting the rhydonium fuel and the graphium-99 gas just side by side, or one after the other, or how is that going to work?
Side by side, so if you want to shoot one rather than the other, it would still be a risk, but we'd still have the option.
Okay, and what is the time delay that you want to set?
30 minutes?
30 minutes?
No, not even. Probably 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Okay, make me an average computers check, please.
Albie, we did not upgrade my character sheet with the...
Oh, you're right. Here,
latest
I can do
computers.
that in 2 shakes of a bantha's tail.
Also, if there is any recording devices in the hangar,
Done.
Isshwarr would suggest we could somehow frame Glabo by claiming that we were working for him and erasing any video feed, so all they have is the audio.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Success and a threat.
So you rolled 1 success and 1 threat. So number 1, you succeed on writing the program and executing it to deliver the selected cargo into the room in approximately 10 minutes. You're not sure yet what the threat means, but you'll find out.
Oh god. Did I accidentally ding the barrel and now it's slowly leaking?
It violently throws the barrel in there and it starts leaking. Whips it across the room.
That's all I can do, so I'm gonna jump into the crate and let's book it.
And as you pass down the conveyor, you are looking through the little sort of air holes like a puppy dog on Christmas morning in a box. And you pass through the scanning field and you see the scan. Actually, interestingly enough, you can see the blue line pass right through your body even though you're inside. And it goes into the central chamber between the 2 MagCon fields. And maybe for 1 second, you wait expectantly to see if you're going to burn up in a blazing inferno. But instead, you hear a very pleasant ding as you pass into the hangar bay beside it. And as you change rooms, I'm going to put a map up for you.
There was a 13% chance we would get incinerated there. I'm glad I was incorrect.
Now, tell me when the map comes up and you can see it.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so this is the
it's the
hangar
right
bay.
size.
I'd like to kind of clarify. I'm changing the sort of layout of
sorry.
the map here. Are you turning the ship or am I?
I did that.
How dare you, sir? Okay.
No, I'm not. Okay, there.
All right, so basically what you see here, let me turn down the music just a smidge. Okay, so what you see here, along the edge of the room, the map is drawn such that it looks like there are sort of rooms back there, like separate rooms on the first floor. Instead, what I want you to assume this represents is a catwalk that is elevated, and you can freely walk along that edge. And the areas that are sort of like two double blue lines on a white thing, in fact, let me draw on it here.
Yeah, I see
Like
exactly.
this stuff here, those are ladders to get down. But this whole area across here is an elevated catwalk 15 feet above this area.
Okay, so all the outside room areas are really elevated, and
An elevated,
doorways
continuous catwalk with no walls. Now,
Gotcha.
as you peek through the chamber, I'm going to show you where you guys come out. You guys come out approximately here on the catwalk. You'll be coming out of the conveyor right there, and the crate will kind of be where this really dark maroon one is here. You can't see my black writing over it very well, but right about there. And in fact, why don't I'm going to drag your giant tokens there. There is Isshwarr and L3 in the crate. You are up there. And as you peek through the holes in the room before the crate opens, you see, number one, there's a group of some kind of pirates over here. There's 3 of them, and they're accessing a terminal, apparently controlling a sort of one of those ceiling cranes. Let me move the ship to where it should be. You see here a separate individual standing by himself, and I'll describe in a moment what he looks like. And then you see over here another group of individuals who seem to be controlling a refueling station. So they're at a separate terminal, and they are sort of, I'm going to circle over here. There's 3 fuel tanks, and there's a line from them going to the ship, and the ship is being refueled as we speak. Let me erase all those drawings. And so you see, let me give you a kind of a better description of the individual before you. So you see like a medium freighter is on the central hangar floor, and you see a tall Ansat male of muscular build, kind of mid-aged, and he stands in front of the ship surveying the loading of cargo. He's about maybe 6 feet tall and just a shade over 200 pounds. A sturdy individual. His long, greasy black hair kind of falls back on his shoulders, and he has a pair of spacer's goggles over his eyes. I'm not sure if you've seen an Ansat before, but they look humanoid. The only difference is this particular Ansat has a beard, but kind of where your mustache would come off on the sides, you know, like if you had a handlebar mustache where it would twirl. There's sort of these flesh-colored, small, tentacle-like appendages kind of twirling off there, and they kind of undulate and flick about as he speaks. A little bizarre looking. But he himself has long, greasy black hair falling back on his shoulders. He has these goggles on, and his armor has some heavy plating over the chest, and his arms and legs, but still allows for pretty free movement. So kind of like a padded armor. And there are many small attachments and clips on the armor, kind of suggesting a customized rig. There's a respirator mask on his chest that could be pulled up to draw over his face when needed, but right now it's just kind of hanging around his left pectoral. And he has a half beard that is beaded and braided in an ornamental way, and those little wispy tendrils extending from the sides of his sort of nose area. And as he stands, he's holding a staff there, and he uses it to walk, kind of the way I would envision is if you ever saw like Mad-Eye Moody from Harry Potter, like he's kind of a bulky guy, and he kind of uses the staff to walk around. Not that he is crippled or in any way, but he just kind of, it's an affectation, and it defines his movement. And he's barking orders with this gruff and deep voice at his crew, and he kind of has a little bit of a lyrical, sing-songy way that he talks. He seems tough but respectful of his crew. And from what you can tell, they're about to finish refueling. You see behind him a very large crate, much larger than a standard crate, which I'm going to circle right here. It is near the back of the ship, and it looks like it is going to be loaded by the crane through a ceiling hatch on the ship into the cargo bay, because it's far too big to just load manually. And the crane is actually being deployed downward as it's moving around and grasping the edge of that large crate. And at this point, I will turn it over to you.
Well, the first thing L3 would want to do is survey the potential battlefield. Calculate any odds and ends, see what he can draw from his memory banks about tactical superiority in any way, so I can maybe do a warfare knowledge check with my valuable facts, and then advise Isshwarr on the best method of attack.
Sure, make me an average knowledge warfare check. I'm going to have you roll one black dice with it because you're still inside the crate peering through small holes to try and get a survey of the scene.
Gotcha. Just to let you know, I have knowledge specialization in warfare, so if that comes about, I will...
Remind me what that does again, please?
It'll bear fruit if I get any triumphs on this.
Oh, got it. Okay. Oh, now see, you blessed yourself. You got a triumph after you talked about your knowledge specializations. He rolled 3 success, a threat, and a triumph. So I think it's time to read out loud what your knowledge specialization does, just for my benefit.
When acquired, choose one knowledge skill. When making that skill, may spend triumph, resulting in additional successes equal to ranks in knowledge specialization, which is 2. So that's 5.
Okay. So you now have 5 successes and 1 threat. So I am going to grant a pretty generous amount of information on various things you see around the room. Number
just
1.
To clarify, Albie, and that now Isshwarr gets a triumph moving forward.
A triumph on what?
Add 1 triumph to 1 ally skill check during the encounter.
Oh wow. Okay, that is useful. So put that in your Wookiee pocket, please. Okay, so
my Wookiee pocket it's gonna burn a hole in it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
is that part of knowledge specialization or a separate talent?
That I triggered that I wanted to roll warfare for valuable facts, and then knowledge specialization helps warfare.
All right, so Isshwarr, you get to save a triumph for 1 skill check during this encounter. Okay, L3, as you stick your ocular sensor right up to the opening in the crate, and you begin scanning the room, you notice a few interesting details. The Anzot captain barking orders at everyone else. This staff that he's carrying, you can tell, is a electro staff. although it's not deployed or active right now, you can tell from having seen these before that it can activate an electronic field on both ends and can knock down opponents and disorient. It also can do ion damage to droids. So you would notice that this is an immediate threat to you in close quarters to him. You notice that the individual pirates don't seem very well armed. You see pistols on their sides and nothing else other than vibroblades on their belts. And across the room, you do notice, due to your previous knowledge check, that there's a number of these... There's a number of these fuel canisters, these Rhydonium fuel canisters around the room, and I'm just going to circle them here, one here, 3 here, and 1 next to you here. And that, tactically speaking, is all you see, although when you gaze at the ship across the way, you can tell that this particular model of transport has 2 oddly placed rear front hatch covers that you would expect are anti-personnel sort of ground weapons. So in other words, they're not vehicle grade weapons, but they're sort of like anti-personnel grade weapons that can deploy to provide cover fire.
I would quietly relay this all to the Wookiee and advise on perhaps a quieter route.
He suggests, after hearing what you tell him is out there, if there is a way, if you can get out of the crate and sneak over to what was this guy's name again? The word chief. Wookiee names are hard.
Spetogurra.
Spetogurra. Okay, if you can get to Spetogurra's crate and unlock it, he will help us. I will give you get as close as you can safely, and give me a sign, and I will give you the distraction.
I will follow your advice.
And as you guys are speaking, something interesting is noticed. One of the captain kind of goes over and touches some external buttons on the crate, and the outside of it kind of falls away, like the side panels fall down to the ground and the top panel like flips over, and inside you can see that it's actually not as if there's just sort of an individual inside the crate, but there is this frozen block of carbonite, and as you look at it, you can see the shape of a Wookiee roaring in fury. And from your just rough estimation, eyeballing it, he's even just a shade taller than you, Isshwarr. And he's the crane from above clamps around the block of carbonite and begins to slowly lift it.
Reassessment. Shall I go for the crane operator?
No, I've got something for them. And he pulls that rocket launcher over his shoulder. Says,
Damage to the console can fire.
You get down there and see what you can do about the ship and its weapons.
Oh, jeez.
Stealthily.
Oh my God, Scott.
My suggestion is to get your hero away from the ship so we can ignite the fuel.
And as that moment passes, the crane now lifts the carbonite block into the air.
In that case, do it. And he pushes open the top of the crate. And let's see, if I remember correctly, the guys on the south side are working the crane, correct?
That is what you would notice from observation, yes.
Okay. I will let L3 out, and then so he can stealth. So I'll let him do that, and then I'm immediately going to pull out the. You know what? How far is that? How far would I be able to move if I double move from the crate along this catwalk to the south? Would I be able to get to those guys?
Currently, they're essentially just barely at long range. So if you double moved, you would still be short range from them.
Okay, I could make that happen. Would I'd be in close enough range to hit him with this cannon. So, yeah, that's my plan. That's what he's gonna do. He'll let L3 get out, and then I'm gonna take one strain to double move to get.
Okay, so go ahead and put your strain on there. Now, let me ask a question. L3, are you stealthing first, and then Isshwarr, are you just walking, or are you going to try and stealth as well? Because a 7-foot-tall Wookiee freely walking across the upper platform would probably be noticeable.
Yeah, he's... Well, I'm guessing if I stealth, I would not be able to take action, because that would take a maneuver, right? Is that...
If you made a stealth check, it would kind of be an action, and then your maneuvers would follow.
Right, yes. Okay, so, yeah, I want to preserve my action. So I will let him stealth, and then I will get out and let them freely see me as I huff it across the
All right, combat technically hasn't started yet, so we're still in sort of like narrative time here. So, L3, go ahead and roll me an average stealth check with 1 boost dice, because everyone is occupied and not paying attention at the moment. As you're doing this, you see the captain turning to the crane operators and cussing at them, barking an order to, God damn it, just line it up with the slot on the top. You know, he's getting frustrated. They're taking a while. They're kind of like banging the carbonite thing against the side of the ship and lifting it higher. They're just not very good at this. So you rolled on your stealth check 1 success and 1 advantage. So without difficulty, you managed to blend into the shadows. And where are you moving to, if anywhere, at the moment?
I'm probably going to start immediately south as quickly as I can to poise myself to strike any of the crane crew or take advantage of any distraction that Isshwarr makes if they leave that.
So you both are moving towards the crane crew.
That was the plan, right?
Okay, so are you...
What was... Do you want me to go towards the cage or the crane?
No, I need you to control the crane. You're right. Yeah, that's
okay.
a good...
So I'm not sure how far I can get.
If you're willing to spend a strain, you can get to short range from the crane operators.
I basically kind of want to be here. Like, is this Imperial design where there's no railings or guards, or is there something I can still hide behind if I linger here and wait for
No, there's a short railing and there are shadows towards the walls. So I mean, if you hung kind of towards the wall, it wouldn't be a problem. To get to that distance, you'd be taking 1 strain and using 2 maneuvers.
I will take that.
Okay, go ahead and add that to your character sheet, and you are now in short range of them. Isshwarr, you strut yourself out of the crate as the sides fall away, and as you walk, the crane operators kind of look over towards you and say, "What the hell is that?" And they say, "Captain!" And you see the Anzat turn around and say, "What the blazes do you want?" And he looks up and he says, "Well, this is about to be a more interesting day." And he takes a sort of lumbering step forward, clink, with the staff hitting the ground, 1 leg forward, clink, clink, and he walks up to you, sort of closer to this area with the yellow stripes in the floor. And he says, "What business do you have here today? We've got a timetable to stick to." And then you see the 3 sort of crew that are at the thing pull their pistols out, and the captain looks over at them and barks out of kind of like a vicious criticism and says, "Stow your pistols, you ruddy bastards. We're merely talking. You, Wookiee, state your business. I have things to do. They don't seem to see you yet, L3.
He says,
Oh, and clarify for me, are you holding the missile launcher outward and on your shoulder at the moment? Or is
no,
it
actually, when he suggested that the crane controls be in working order, he kind of put it back, and he's holding onto his bowcaster. And, he looks down at the captain and kind of quizzically tilts his head and then says, I've been sent here by Glabo to acquire your cargo.
And he kind of cocks his head back at you a little bit and narrows one eye, pulls his goggles up to the forehead. And they've been on there so long you can see like a sort of a circle where there's like clean skin around his eyes and sort of dirt around his face. And he sort of strokes his beard, and his little sort of tendrils around his nose like flicker for a moment. And he says to you, well, isn't that interesting? Because, well, let's just say I'm under the employ of Glabo myself. He didn't quite tell me I'd have a partner on this operation. And I'd like you to make a.
I wasn't finished.
Sorry.
But go ahead.
I'd like you to make a hard vigilance check, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I was about to. Yeah, he was about to make some shit up. No way I passed this skill check, by the way.
Okay, you rolled 2 success and a threat, and what you notice is when he says to you that he's also working for Glebo as well, you see the little tendrils around his nose like flicker nervously for a second, like in a way that is out of sorts with their normal undulation that they were doing before, and you see like one eye kind of twitch for a second.
You're lying.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. He goes, yes, well, for his part, he didn't tell me I'd be working with you either. Somehow, I don't think he would send me here if you were already working for. Although I am impressed you understand my language.
Yes, well, let's just say it pays in my line of work to know one's way around the Outer Rim, language and all. But, we seem to be at an impasse of sorts. What do you say we parley for a moment and perhaps discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement? See, it's cost me dearly to get this particular mark. And I'm in the hole, my crew is down, lost a number of people on this job, and I need the money. Maybe we can come to an agreement without any violence.
Kind of like leans the bowcaster on his shoulder, narrows his eyes for a moment. Make your offer.
My offer, friend? I
Yes.
think you're the one that needs to make an offer. I have sitting here valuable cargo. You obviously want me to part with it. I'm all ears.
Okay. Then you get my opening bid. You get to take your crew and your ship and go find employ elsewhere.
And I'm waiting for the good part.
That is the good part.
I love Wookiee.
I've met me a lot of Wookiees in my time, and, well, not surprised that's the tack you take. Let me make you a counteroffer, as we call it. 10,000 credits. That's what the mark is worth to me. Pay it. Be on your way. Or paint the floor with your blood. Your choice.
He takes a moment. Rubbing like his chin, kind of like he's thinking. And he says, "No, I don't think that deal suits me one bit."
And the captain says, always do love me a Wookiee. It's battle then, yes?
It would seem that way. And then he lowers his bowcaster and shoots the guy at the controls of the loading.
And here is where we roll initiative. And we are going to be rolling initiative as cool. Cool. So, on your character sheets, messed up, sorry. On your character sheets on the main tab, you'll see initiative, cool, and vigilance. You're going to be rolling it from cool.
Hey! Considering, yeah.
Not bad. Okay, so we will be starting with a NPC slot. As you see, let's see. So as Chaos breaks into the room, you pull up your bowcaster, and the second they see that happen, you hear the captain call across the room, "You know what to do, boys!" And then the pirate crew closest to you draws their pistols. You can see them take a moment to kind of steady their aim, and they fire at you, Isshwarr. This would be Pirate Crew 1. And they pull out a heavy blaster pistol, and they line up their shot, and all three of them kind of start unloading blaster fire in your direction.
Typical movie fashion, does it hit the railing?
Let's see, real fast, one thing.
See, that's the real reason why the Empire didn't build railings. Because they saw how many people actually shoot railings.
Now you are in short range, so they it's one purple dice, and they are actually getting a boost dice for using their maneuver to aim. Okay, and do you have any defensive talents at the moment that
I don't
play into
believe
this?
so. No, because I have to activate it on my turn, I believe.
Which talent is that, just so I know? Because I might...
Well, first of all, that's defensive stance, which I think is for melee anyway.
I believe so.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's for melee attacks. Okay, so the three kind of pirates draw their pistols out as their captain's barking orders at them, and they start just peppering the whole area around you with blaster fire. And the first few shots kind of ping on the railings and everything, and you kind of start to like pull the bowcaster back, and you're taking a few steps backwards as you're ready to unload. And a few shots kind of start hitting the sides of your like around your foot on the ground, and one shot hits you right in the shoulder, and you have a soak of, help me out, 6. So you took a net of 3 damage, so I'm going to apply that to you. 3 wounds, we should call it. And it hits you in the shoulders. You kind of bark out in pain for a second. And as their turn ends, we now move to who would like to seize the initiative.
And
Woody, go ahead. If you would.
Thematically, you shot first, so it should be you first.
Okay. Man, this keeps throwing an error at me in Fantasy Ground.
An error for what?
It's a clipboard error. It's weird. I've never seen it
I
before.
got that during one of the fights on the ship, and then it just went away.
Okay.
Just
Anyway,
close it.
will I be able to hit them from where I'm standing?
Oh, sure,
Yeah, because
yeah.
it's open, right? Yeah, of course. In that case, I'm going to. Yeah, I'll take one maneuver to aim at them, and then I'm going to shoot them with my bowcaster.
Okay, so you add a boost dice. You pull out that bowcaster, start flinging green bolts of energy in the direction of the pirate crew in front of the crane operators area.
And you said
It is short range, one purple dice, you get one blue dice.
Oh my.
Wow.
See, I can either activate my critical or I can knock them down. Interesting.
What does knockdown do?
Well, it makes them prone. Yeah, I will not prone, I think.
Okay, so first let's
knockdown
apply
quality.
that damage to the pirate crew one. So basically what you see happen is you, after you roar out in pain for a second, you level that, what's it called, bowcaster at them, and with rage in your eyes start pulling the trigger, and as you see these green bolts kind of hit the console, hit the railing around them, one bolt hits one of the guys square in the chest, and you just see him instantly go lifeless as his body flies backwards. And a second one spins away from one of your shots, and as he does, he trips over the first guy's leg and falls backwards. And the last guy looks down as he's like, what the hell did you step on me for? And before he can even say it, you hit him square in the head with a second shot. And there's sort of like this like blood spray everywhere as his head kind of blows apart and he falls down to the ground, leaving only one of the three still intact, and he is on his back on the floor.
And I will take a strain as another movement. Below me are these crates. Actually,
Yeah, there's crates below you, about 15 feet down. Although, because there's a crate that's only really about 6 or 7 feet down because of the crate height.
good. He will take a strain and kind of like jump down onto those crates.
Average athletics check, please.
Sure, absolutely.
And you roll 2 success and an advantage. So, not only do you jump over the railing and land skillfully on top of the crates, but you get a boost dice to your next attack check, next combat check, due to your advantageous landing in position.
Would I be able to add 1 black dice to range attacks?
Add 1 black dice to an enemy's.
Yeah, like if I land like maybe like half behind a crate, like I got covered.
Yeah, sure. If you want to spend it that way, that's fine.
That'd be perfect.
Okay, that brings us now to you see an opening, L3, as you see Isshwarr dive over the railing and land behind a crate after he unleashed sufficient devastation on these poor saps next to him.
Sweet. I will. How many crew is left over there? Like,
1 crew on the floor next. One of the 3 crew members is still alive next to the crane controls. There are 3 others that are down by the fuel controls, and you're not sure who's on the ship yet.
gotcha. All right, I'll stealthily come around and finish off who's ever on the control. My photoreceptor goes from that pleasant blue to a bright red. And the rapier, vibro rapier, extends out of my forearm, ready and engaged.
Le rapier.
Combat protocol engaged.
Okay, so you'll be making a melee combat check against a prone opponent, so I'm going to give you an extra boost dice for that.
And just in case I, miss, I'm going to use frenzied attack, just so we finish everything off.
He doesn't just shank him; he shanks him like 15 times.
Frenzied attack does what again, please?
Hold on, let me read it. Frenzied attack. When making a melee or brawl check, suffer a number of strain to upgrade the attack an equal number of times. The strain suffered may not exceed ranks in Frenzied attack, and I have 1 rank in Frenzied.
Okay, so add 1 strain to your character sheet, and you'll be rolling a average weapon check with your weapon, because that's the standard difficulty for melee. And
if he's on the ground, wouldn't it be reduced?
Is it reduced, or do they get a boost dice? You're actually my convenient rules lawyer. So
I'll look it up for you.
let's see. Combat check, melee. Do. I'm desperately looking for.
Yeah, I didn't know that one either.
Stand, drop, prone. I think, no, you get +1 boost dice when targeted by melee attacks when you're prone.
Okay, there you go.
So it's 2 purple dice, you get a boost dice, and you get to push the green plus to upgrade it once.
Oh my god.
Oh, holy crap. So 4, you basically roll 4 success, 2 advantage, and a triumph. As you do that, why don't you go ahead and narrate the gory scene before us?
Determined to make sure that this goes off without a hitch and having no potential bumps in the road, L3 just goes straight for the heart and just basically his vibroblade sinks straight through whatever armor there, through the heart, out the back, and almost gets stuck on the plasteel underneath, and it's just instant. Like from the shadows, and then bam.
And we hear a nice wet, splotchy vibrio blade impaling going on. And as you do that, you can see for a second the crane kind of loses its tracking, and the carbonite block, with the crane still attached to it, starts to careen towards the floor. But as you flick up and notice that, you instantly move your hand backward and hit the console and stop it in midair, and there's this clank as it catches, and you manage to sort of gain control of the carbonite frozen victim as it is still held by the crane before it crashes into the floor. And you have 3 dead pirates before you. And as that completes, the captain looks up.
Can I use that triumph for the 2 advantage in any?
How would you like to use the triumph, since it is yours to use as you see fit?
Well, I'd like to use the advantage to reduce my strain, and I'd like to use the triumph to see if I can do this all whilst not being noticed. If at all.
If not be noticed. That might be hard. However, let's give you some latitude there. I'll say that the captain is engaged with the firing of your companion with his glowing green bowcaster bolts, and you manage to shiv the guy and control the console to stop the block from falling without him kind of seeing you yet. As you do that, the captain kind of looks over and he shouts back towards the ship, "Get the anti-personnel weaponry ready." And you see on top of the ship, there's the 2 hatches open, and there's sort of 2 cannons, and they turn, and they're sort of maybe the equivalent of heavy blaster rifles, but they're mounted to the ship, and they're just sort of auto-firing in your direction, peppering the entire area with blaster bolts. Let's see if this thing works yet. And as they start firing, basically what happens is you're kind of under a sort of barrage attack at the moment, and no damage is being done to you. However, if you make any checks and roll threat or despair, you'll take damage from the blaster fire that's peppering the area. And the captain kind of stows his staff on his back for a moment, pulls out a blaster rifle, and first he moves kind of behind the crates for cover, and he begins to fire towards Isshwarr, standing... Actually not. He is going to push on his wrist console and command the ship to fire its vehicle weapons at the upper platform.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Oh shit. Oh!
And the blasts kind of go wide. They're hitting crates, and crates are exploding, and there's dust everywhere. They're hitting the wall, missing you. You kind of gather that he was trying to destroy the support for the platform you're standing on, hoping to send you crashing to the ground. He's just not able to pull it off as he cusses under his breath. And you see those little tendrils around his nose kind of dance wildly. And it is now the last group's turn. They move around and spend a maneuver to get safely behind the crate, and they fire at the fuel canister that is kind of in between them and Isshwarr. And as they hit it, you see this massive sort of explosion of fuel and fire, this kind of like massive inferno of like liquid spouting out and gouts of flame. And around, I'm going to throw this on the ground so you kind of see the hazard area. So flames are rising, and kind of as the liquid spreads out, it burns slowly and very hotly. So as the liquid begins oozing out, it's like flames are starting to spread everywhere. And they're rising pretty high. Instantly after it explodes, there's flame and smoke kind of obscuring the view between you guys and the group that is standing there. And it is now... Well, the other pirate crew is now fully deceased. And it is now Ishwar's turn.
Isshwarr says, "See if you can't use the crane on those guns." Then, let's see, I kind of ended up right here, right? After that, I jumped down off that thing.
You jumped down.
Let's see, this is kind of a abstract thing, movement in this game. So if I moved at a diagonal angle and avoided the fire, would I be able to use a second movement to close in on the cap?
Okay, so you're standing up on the crate. You're going to have to use a maneuver to get down to ground level, and then another maneuver with strain to go where you'd like to go.
Okay. So there's no cover over there.
Missile time.
Yeah, I'm considering that. Would I take any advantage or disadvantage? Is my guess firing through the fire?
Yeah,
Or
you're
is
going.
it not blocking me at all?
No, there's fire and smoke there, so you have an obstructed line of view. You can fire, but you'd have setback dice.
Remember, you have a triumph in your pocket, too.
I know. Oh, that's true.
Yeah, it is pretty epic.
Actually, that is
An
a perfect time. Yeah, he kind of like rolls that rocket launcher onto his other shoulder and levels at the ground at the crew, and he lets it go.
Okay, and as you fire, because you're spending you can go ahead and roll, but you're gonna auto hit basically. But go ahead and make the roll anyway in case you score extra success. Then you don't have to waste the triumph on just hitting the first guy. So you're gonna be rolling. What is the range on your fragmentation missile?
It is extreme.
Oh, okay, and it is a gunnery skill.
It is a gunnery skill, and since technically, would you say these guys are at long range?
Yes, they're currently at long range, so it'd be 3
So I
purple
get to
dice.
add 3 extra damage to whatever I do.
Because of your barrage?
Yes.
Okay, so make the roll with 3 purple dice and 1 black dice.
I will aim as well.
You'll
As a
have.
maneuver?
Did you jump down, or are you standing up there?
No, he's still on the crates.
Okay, so you
'Cause he's
spend a
kinda still
maneuver.
got that cover,
You can
right?
add a boost dice.
Yeah. So,
Just like to point out how far this missile has traveled to get to this point.
Seriously, this missile was born on Ruria Prime in the beautiful Hornadays black box. Tyrus was spending some extra pocket cash, and this puppy's been carried through the entire campaign without use. This is a legendary
you know
missile.
what? That's right. You know what? This
Don't
was
use
purchased-
it.
This was purchased with the Force, like foreseeing that it was going to be useful, right? And in honor of that, I'm going to use a light side token and upgrade this.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Do you blow up the ship with it?
Well, there goes the carbonite Wookiee.
He's still in the air.
It's carbonite.
In
It's
fairness,
anti-personnel.
if I understand correctly, the blast
Well,
radius
yeah,
of this
you know,
missile
and this, like,
is short range. There's no fuel canisters next to that side of the ship.
Yeah.
So, and the carbonite Wookiee is actually suspended about at least 10 to 15 feet in the air. So it is out of danger.
Right across town, this carbonite like plaque is going to slam between like Bioorigins and Tire. Where did that come from?
Not as awesome as I thought it was going to be, but
Okay,
still.
so the net effect of this roll is 2 successes, 2 advantage, and 1 triumph. So let's resolve that. First of all, your 2 successes, you obviously hit the pirate crew and dealing damage. Your 2 triumph.
Yeah, I
How
only
can we?
need 2. I only need 2 advantage for the blast.
You need 2 advantage to activate blast, if I'm not mistaken, and the missile is. What's blast 12? Holy crap. Okay, so.
Plus 3.
Okay, you basically. Alright, so you basically fire this missile, and as it leaves the missile tube, you watch it just trace across the room right through the fiery blaze. You're not even sure exactly if it's hitting on target, but you just have a feeling that you hit home perfectly. And all you can see over the flames is this glorious explosion as you kind of hear sort of heavy metal guitar music in your head as you see bodies flying in all directions. One of the pirates kind of way over the ship to the left. One of them flies up in the air in slow motion, landing in the flames of the fuel fire. And the third one goes right through and slams into the MagCon field in the back, splatting and then kind of like streaking down as if he hit glass. The captain kind of looks around him for a second in panic as you pull down the missile tube and stow it back on your back and smile.
In response, he goes, "I bet my offer's sounding pretty sweet right now."
And L3, it's your turn.
Alright, what is the structural integrity of this Wookiee right now and the carbonite? Like, how far can I drop him without any damage?
You are not entirely sure. It's a
Is there a
15-foot
roll,
drop. Carbonite creature of this size would have an incredible mass and weight. It would be a significant smash onto the floor. You're not certain whether the carbonite would shatter or fracture.
Okay. Because I was thinking of dropping him right on the captain's head as just 'cause it's poetic justice that the Wookiee, even in carbonite, killed his capture.
That would be pretty awesome. Pretty Greek awesome.
But I do not want to risk the prisoner that we're here to save. So is there any way I could use the crane to move him like a safe position out of the way and lower him to the ground?
You can spend your action to safely lower the carbonite block to the ground and place it there.
Somewhere like away from the ship. Is that possible or no?
Yeah, the crane can move anywhere in the room, so you tell me where you'd like to deposit him.
Ken,
You
what do
freely
think?
you can freely
Back,
move
left
that
corner?
token wherever you like.
Do we know if that conveyor belt goes backwards?
You wouldn't have control of it from in here, and as you look over to it, you see your fuel canister and graphium canister sitting there as you have.
Probably just next to the door, someplace safe. Any place out of the way of those.
Like, yeah, if you look
Move
at the map,
token
I
where you'd
moved
like.
it here.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I think that's the safest place away from canisters and all of this other bullshit. Yeah, and I just drop it there. Is there anything left for me to do, or no?
You have maneuver.
No, you know what? I'm gonna stay by this crane. There's some fun shenanigans I could probably still do with it. I'll end my turn there.
Okay, and as it goes to Captain Galdosa, you see him look around for a moment at his dead crew. He reconsiders his position for a second. And then he calls on his wrist for reinforcements, and you see another group come out from the ship and run down the platform, standing there awaiting for orders as he barks out to do something, you idiots. And, let me put them here. Gyron pirate crew. So they come out out of the hatch. As he is finished calling for them, he runs over. Well, I'm going to change that. He actually is going to move to the edge here and pull out his blaster rifle and heavy blaster rifle and take some shots at you, Isshwarr. And he has a setback dice because you're currently sort of behind cover. He is going to spend a destiny point to upgrade that.
Actually, you still have one left as well, because I used one. You just didn't flip it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow, that's an amazing success, though.
Okay, so as he, you can see a desperation in his eyes. The usual calm, cool, collected guy you saw a moment ago is kind of realizing that the little crew he has left after this last job is pretty much decimated. And he pulls out this large blaster rifle and starts firing at you. And you can't help but fall back at the sort of desperate onslaught that he's launching upon you.
That would be 10 damage. Ouch.
So you can see you're sort of moderately injured as these shots are hitting you and crates are exploding and shrapnel's hitting you in the face and stuff. And you are reconsidering your position there at the moment. As you can see, kind of, he pulls the goggles back down over his eyes, and you can see he has no intention of giving up.
Curious how I will spend the threat. Where's that?
Shard.
Spend what?
He hits me good.
Yeah, it's a good hit with that rifle. And as he finishes that action, he calls over his shoulder, and the pirate crew kind of move over to this area behind the crates, too far away really to shoot at you, and they realize that, and they spend a strain or one wound to kind of start making their way over towards you, and they maybe get over to here. And since minions don't have strain, they take one wounds in doing so, pushing themselves to save their captain.
Can you?
And Isshwarr, it's your turn.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you bring up the threat and advantage thing?
Oh yeah, sure.
I just couldn't find it. There it is. Ooh. I get a free maneuver in response to the character's act check.
Yeah, I mean, you spend those two threat as you choose.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm gonna give him. You know what? Oof. This is a hard choice. You know what? I'll let it give me a boost dice. How about that? I'll just take that boost dice.
Okay, you get that extra boost dice, and it is now your turn.
He is going to take a movement here, so that the fire and smoke is between him and the captain. I suppose giving me another black dice, giving me a black dice, right, of defense against ranged attacks.
Yeah, any line of sight through that fire is going to get a setback dice.
Okay, and then.
Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, but the fire has spread slightly.
Oh, yeah, that was good to know. Oh, it's going towards the fuel depot. That's.
I don't see
Go
too
ahead.
many crates over there.
Well, no, but there was a fueling pad over there.
Very true.
I'd go back to my bowcaster and level at the pirate crew and unload on them. Are they at medium range? How far away?
Yeah, they're at they're sort of at the extent of medium range right now.
Good, perfect.
So 2 purple dice.
Yeah. Yep. Don't think I need an upgrade. I'll get my boost dice.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so you get a
One
success as you pull your bowcaster out, and despite the roaring flames around you to your right, you level the blaster and start firing, and you manage to just slam one guy right in the center of the chest. And you see him go down, and the second one you hit in the shoulder, and you kind of blow out the side of that arm, and he kind of falls for a second, kind of drops his blaster, picks it up with the other hand, and the other guy helps him up, and you can see them kind of just sort of taking a step backwards as they're kind of feeling threatened. And you hit both of them. There is still 2 remaining, and 1 is almost dead. L3.
So, since you used the nice analogy that these cranes are like, those crane games in a video game place, how would it be that I might be able to grab the captain with the crane?
So if you try to, you can make an attempt to grab him. He's going to get a coordination check to get away from it, and he's going to get a boost dice because you're trying to sight him through the fire.
Even though I'm in an elevated position.
Even though you're in an elevated position,
the
flames,
smoke and everything.
There's shimmering in
Alright.
the air, there's smoke. Even if you try and use sort of like your infrared sensors, it's just blinding, and it's hard to kind
Gotcha.
of lock
Oh yeah,
onto
with
him.
the heat and everything. Idea 2. How many turns or maneuvers would it be to grab one of the fuel tanks and just drop it on him?
You could spend your action to grab a fuel tank and move it where you like, and a maneuver to let it go.
I will do that. I will grab the one that came off the conveyor belt, since my claw is probably still closest to the crate, and then I will definitely drop it on the captain if I can.
Are you referring to... Oh, that one over there. Okay. Okay, so you place it, you move it with the crane, and as he looks at you and he sees it coming over towards him, he's like, "Oh!" And you release it, and as it falls, he kind of sees it coming, and he tries desperately to jump out of the way. Let's see, what is his... Coordination is 2. So he's going to make an average coordination check to get away from this falling death bomb. Okay, so he succeeds with 3 advantages. So as it falls down on him, he plants his staff on the ground and uses it as a linchpin to launch himself forward. And he is going to get a free maneuver out of turn to move over into this area as he launches forward. And the crate hits the ground and explodes as the fuel kind of spreads everywhere. And once again, fire is now spreading across the floors here.
Good luck, reinforcements.
The fire is kind of, as the crate explodes, fuel is going in all directions. And so basically, you're getting kind of like a radial expansion of the fire as it's igniting. The room is quickly becoming a hazardous area as smoke is filling the air, and within the next
Doesn't
turn,
bother me.
you're going to have to start having difficulty breathing due to the choking fumes. It is
Ishvar
now
will-
Captain Galdosa's turn. With rage in his eye, he moves himself forward to you, Isshwarr, and extends his staff outward. And as he does, you see at the edges of each tip of the staff these gleaming, kind of sparking and arcing yellow electrical effects. As he pulls it over towards you, and he says, "You have majorly fucked up my day." And he flips the staff around towards you and makes an attack against you.
Gonna hurt.
And as he's going to do that, he stops for a moment, moves the staff around, and as you think it's going to hit you, he swings it around, jumps up in the air, and hooks it around your shoulders, planting his feet on your chest, and he extends his face towards you for a moment, almost as if he's going to kiss you. And those little tendrils roll out from the sides of his face and extend and move upward into your nostrils for a moment.
Ah! What a weirdo!
Yeah.
Oh.
And as they move up into your brain, you feel the world around you stop. And I would like you to roll for me.
Strange love.
I would like you to roll for me a hard resilience check.
Oof.
Yeah, this is gonna be rough. I will upgrade.
And he is going to, in turn, spend a dark side token to negate
Counter
that
it?
attempt.
Then
Yeah.
I will use a triumph.
Well, you spent your triumph on the rocket.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
No, you said not to, and wait and see what the outcome was. And I rolled 2 success and 2 advantage, which is the blast on it. I mean, it did 3 extra damage just from my. Well, that's okay. If
Yeah,
you say
there's
I used it, that's fine.
advantage to it.
I understood that you used it on that attack. I apologize.
Okay. That's fine. I'm good.
All right.
Holy-
So, as he tries to flip these little tendrils up your nose, you grab behind your head and pull your staff around you, and you actually use it as like a kind of fulcrum to launch him over your shoulder into the crates behind you. The tendrils rip out of your nose before they can gain any purchase into your delicate, soft tissues as he crashes to the floor and falls prone, wasting his turn. And the pirate crew spend a maneuver to move behind the crates, and the remaining surviving members make an attack roll against Isshwarr. Whoops, sorry, this feature hasn't been implemented yet. I don't know what that means. Okay, combat check, heavy blaster pistol.
Oh, those green dice pulled their weight there, didn't they?
They pull their weight majorly. And as the 2 surviving members, one kind of barely, like one arm limply dangling beside him, he starts just desperately firing in a spray and pray situation. And other managers is like, you just flung this guy over your shoulder and you're not even paying attention to them as you're kind of getting hailed by blaster fire all around you, and you're backed into a corner, and it starts hitting you, and Isshwarr, you take 3 wounds from this attack. Still standing, still vicious, still angry, but desperately harmed.
He actually, yes, he's wounded severely. These guys are ants to him. Like their pings are like just kind of like background sound. His vision is red, and he is focused on this captain, and he just pulls his vibro axe out, right? And he's looking down at this guy, and he just double hands over his head and cleaves down, or attempts to cleave down on top.
Okay, so as we bring to the next round, it is now your turn as you're making this sort of vicious attack against him, as the fires are now spreading over towards the fuel tanks in the far end of the room and surrounding everyone. You were currently in a situation where you were in caustic fumes, and every turn, each character who remains in the area with the exception of L3, who is a droid, will be taking a regular 6 wounds per turn from the noxious fumes. And as you do, Isshwarr, you can make your attack against the captain who is down upon the ground.
So, would you consider myself as having my second level rage at 16 out of 23 wounds?
You're gonna have to elaborate on that for me.
I'm looking Wookiee up right now.
And by the way, L3, you estimate by surveying the room. By the way, L3, the rate of spread of the fire, you're probably going to have a major detonation in the room within the next round.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So, when a Wookiee has suffered any wounds, he gets +1 damage to brawl and melee attacks. When he is critically injured, he gets to add +2 to all brawl and melee attacks.
Okay, you haven't suffered a critical wound yet, a critical injury yet, so you would still have +1 damage.
+1. All right. In that case, it's 2 purple dice difficulty, +1 blue because he's on the ground. Correct?
He is on the ground.
And because we have these light side chits, why not upgrade?
Do it.
Okay.
That
and
is 2 criticals.
Okay, so we will address the criticals in just a moment. As you drive down the Vibrio axe, you can see the captain spins his electro staff around, and he activates his parry talent, for which he has 2 ranks. He will. Let me just double check the. Parry suffers 3 strain, reduce the damage dealt hit by a number equal to 2 plus his ranks in parry, so 4. So he negates 4 damage. He does have to take 2 strain. You see him desperately fling that staff around, and as your axe clacks down over it, you can see his strength kind of fail, and the axe still pushes him down. And although he negates some of the damage,
Finish.
yeah, so he would have otherwise kind of taken a glancing blow from that. However, we do have to account now for your 5 advantage.
Yes.
Which I will turn to you.
It does have 2 points of pierce, FYI, on his Vibro axe.
Okay.
He is gonna. Its critical is 2, so I'll take double critical if I can do that.
You can do that.
And this has vicious 40, so that's +40 to each critical roll.
Okay, so he has durable 2, so he gets to remove 20 from each critical injury roll. So we're gonna roll the critical +20 basically for each one, right?
Yes.
All right, so he would get 27 for the first, which is
Scourging wound.
Discouraging wound. Flip a light side destiny point to, or reverse for NPC. There are no destiny points to flip. Yeah.
Well, I used one here, so it would just stay there.
Oh, it's actually 17. It's actually 37. Excuse me. Stinger. Add 1 damage. One difficulty to next check. Okay, so then you're gonna add another roll +30 because it's the second critical he's getting, and it is now 82. Winded, cannot voluntarily suffer strain to the edge of the encounter. So basically what you do is he tries to parry your attack, and as he does, although it probably prevents him from being cleaved in 2, you drive the thing down into his shoulder, and blood just like pours down his arm as he howls out in pain, and you see those little kind of tendrils like flickering madly, and he is so far pushed back against the crate, and your weight down on him is sort of crushing him, that he is just at a complete point of disadvantage in attacking you. And as you kind of totally have dominance over him at this moment, L3, you look down and you see this going down before you. What do you do?
Well, right now, since I made a assessment of that there's going to be some major explosions happening very short, I'm going to try to see how best to disentangle Isshwarr from this situation. Because the fires are coming in, everything's closing in. Is there any way that I can position the crane so he can grab on and I can swing him to safety when the time
You
comes?
can grab him with the crane, and he gets an option whether he tries to avoid it or not. That would be your action to engage the crane to grab him.
Okay.
Are there any of those cloudy barrels in?
Any of those what?
Oh yeah, we
gas
said a pair of them on the conveyor belt. One explodey, one vape.
Would he know whether or not the vapor would cloud or put out the fire?
He would know that hitting the graphium gas canister would send a dense cloud of black smoke everywhere. It wouldn't necessarily put out the fire, but it would create a sort of smoke screen that would be difficult to see
Okay,
through.
I was just laying options out there.
Would I know?
And those are approximately here, by the way.
Okay. Would I know if the explosion happened like radius-wise, or no? It's just all chaos.
Well, what you would know is where I'm circling here. The fire is moving towards these, and that's where the detonation's going to be. And with 3 of these canisters around each other, it would probably detonate, possibly partially detonate the ship as well. So you'd be looking at most of the room being an inferno.
Yeah, I bring the crane over to Isshwarr and see what happens, because I have the overwatch right now, and things do not look.
So
I'll try to grab him up.
okay, you engage the crane and it comes down. Isshwarr, you see this coming down before you. Do you resist it grabbing you?
No, he'll like kind of glare at it with his angry grunting and heavy breathing of combat adrenaline, but he's not that much of in a rage, and he willingly kind of grabs hold of it. He has an idea as well.
And as the crane kind of wraps around your shoulders and you kind of sling your arm around it, you have to tear yourself away for a second because you have this like blood rage in your heart as you're looking down at Captain Galdosa on the ground. And it pulls you up into the air as the captain looks up at you, cursing at you for running. And as you pick up like 10 or 15 feet in the air, where do you move him with your maneuver?
I'll probably try to move him towards our main objective, so if we're running next turn, we can get away with what we came for. Towards
move
the crate.
Ishwar's token where you would move him within the room.
Though I would be watching him for directions if this is not where he wants to go. Like around to that location right there.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Okay, and as you complete your turn, the captain has to spend a maneuver to try and stand up. He can't really see clearly because the fire is all around him, so he doesn't really know where Isshwarr went. And he's screaming at his colleagues to try and prepare the ship to get away. And
Albie, did I have any maneuvers left? I wanted to start moving.
You spent a maneuver to move Isshwarr after grabbing him. You can take a strain and take a second maneuver to move again.
Or you can use your action, can he?
The action was to grab you with the crane.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, I
So
needed
add a
to get you
strain
at
to
it.
your character sheet, and you can now make one maneuver. So you can move basically within short range.
Can you show me, like, how far is that? Like, over here?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, yeah, and I'll start moving this way.
Okay, and so that's the direction you're moving. The captain begins to run. He has no clear idea exactly where anyone else is at the moment. And he runs, he had to spend a maneuver to get up. He spends a second maneuver there. And he's unable to, you can't do more than 2 maneuvers in a turn, even with your action. So he is stuck, kind of engulfed by the flames.
Actually, he can't even take two maneuvers. Oh well, he can because he doesn't need strain to use his action.
Oh, with that critical injury, you're right,
Yeah.
actually.
Didn't he have to stand up?
Yeah,
Well,
he
that's what I'm
spent
saying.
a maneuver to stand, and he's winded, so you cannot voluntarily suffer strain until the end of the encounter. He can, however, downgrade his action to a
Downgrade an
maneuver.
action. Yeah.
So he ran to there. The crew at this point is running towards the ship. And they are going to downgrade their action to maneuver as well. As they're trying desperately to get to the ship, and even leaving their captain behind in an attempt to survive.
Pirate
And
on.
Isshwarr, it is your turn. You see the flames are now spreading. Unfortunately for the poor bastards running to the ship, there is a terrible explosion in the far end of the room, and flames pretty much spread across this entire area.
Holy!
I thought he did that by accident, but no.
No, I didn't. The ship itself is still intact, although you can see it kind of small detonations and cracks and explosions as parts of it are kind of being destroyed by the fire and flames. The heat in the room is rising to such a crushing level that you can actually see some of the other crates and things around the area starting to glow red, and some of them are actually liquefying and molten durasteel's kind of like splashing onto the floor.
I was gonna say, where's the closest door?
The closest door, you can run under the catwalk out through either here or here. The problem that you face is your carbonite friend is going to be a few hundred pounds at least of weight to drag.
Okay. Oh. I
Hulk
see.
that
That's
Wookiee.
That's a short movement. Yeah. What I'm going to do. No, that's an action. I would love to roll a frag grenade his way. I'm guessing interacting with the crate, like picking it up, would be an action.
It is almost half a foot taller than you are and considerably wider, so picking it up per se is going to be a Herculean effort, but you can drag it.
Yeah. Okay. But
Or you
that's an
can try and interact with the controls on it to release him from carbonite freeze.
That might take
No,
time.
might take time.
Any
Yeah.
repulsor lifts not on fire?
Nothing
No,
that you
he's
can
just-
see around you for the moment.
He's gonna go ahead and just grab it and.
You need to pick up radio now. I'll have time to get to you before you drag that thing out of
he's gonna
here.
drag
How
it
much is
back.
it? How heavy is it?
But you're looking at least a few hundred pounds of weight of mass that you're trying to drag.
That's an athletics check, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a formidable athletics check, which
Formidable.
is 4 purple dice.
Jeez.
Oh, picking it up
Couple
or
hundred.
just
Like,
dragging?
I'm just
drag
curious,
it.
like
To
a
drag
couple
it.
100 pounds is in like 200, or like because just thinking like I'm not that strong. I move 200 pounds all the time. My fat self is 240.
True, however, bear in mind that you are also carrying a lot of inventory. You're at 12
Fair
out of
enough.
14 encumbrance.
Fair enough.
I would allow L3 to help you. He can spend his turn getting to you and give you assistance.
So just dragging it is going to be Herculean, huh?
Actually, I would downgrade
If
it
you were in
to.
gonna-
the movie, I mean, they had
I'm gonna
hover
do it.
lifts
Use
to carry
the
that
full
crap.
lesson.
Remember?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and try.
You have destiny points.
Yes,
yeah, I'm
use
gonna
them.
use the destiny. But- I will upgrade. Flip that chit for me.
Come on.
Let's see. Is there anything else I could do? I don't think so. I don't think I have any abilities. I don't know. So, would I be able to use my force ability to assist me?
What force ability? Force move?
Force move.
Unupgraded, I think you have like a silhouette,
Great.
0 limit on what you can move, so it wouldn't be terribly helpful.
Well, no.
Yeah, it's moving a silhouette
I
0
have-
object within short range.
Well, I do have an upgrade. Like, if I get lucky and roll 2, I do have strength 2, which increases the silhouette by 1. But I mean, like, I just need
However,
to, like, help take me like a boost at.
Making a force check of that nature is an action, so that you'd be doing that in place of trying to use your strength to move it.
Gotcha. Fair enough. All right, I'll just make this roll then.
Trust in the force, my friend.
Lucky
Okay.
bastard.
Okay.
You
so,
always do this.
Isshwarr, you have rolled 2 success,
But
5
you slipped the
threat,
disc.
and a triumph. What you basically do is in those unbelievable moments of stress, when you see like a mother like pick up a car off the child that is, you like strain yourself and growl in a thundering roar as you lift, not drag, but you actually lift it off the ground. And you can hear like a popping and cracking as you hear like tendons kind of being damaged and like your joints being strained. And you pick this thing up onto your back as you hunch forward and you start moving towards the door with it. As L3, you probably have never seen something of this mass being picked up by a humanoid. You're going to actually take 5 strain and 2 wounds in doing this. As you physically harmed yourself with this like major adrenaline surge to lift this, but this Wookiee means something to you, and you are not going to see it burned up in a fire as you drag him out towards the door. And you are able actually to move him safely out of the room because you are practically near the exit. L3, it is you.
All right. Do I want to finish things off and risk myself, or do I want to just get the hell out of Dodge? It looks like he's struggling. Well, not really. I watched a Wookiee pick up like a ton worth of friggin'. Right now, if you pull into L3's head, you just see like a bunch of numbers scrolling and reassessing strength evaluations of Wookiee.
he's confused at the math.
like it's just like, see a bunch of math equations in his head and nothing is adding up right now.
If you got a frag grenade, just toss it down into the fire on that guy. And then get out of
I kind of want that staff though.
It is good.
Alright, you know what? I'm going to... Why do I can't move my token.
Where are you moving to?
I was just gonna like book it to like at least here. Toss a frag grenade over the ledge at the captain there. Actually, no. You know what? I'm going to stand there. And I'm going to look down on the captain nearly getting incinerated. Because we haven't really left any clues behind, and I'm going to turn to him. And in typical neutral droid tone fashion, with his red gleaming photorecept, Glabo does not like resistance. And then he will move off towards the Wookiee.
And as you look down at him for a second, you see like there is a momentary panic where he's calculating his avenues of exit and stuff. But he looks up at you, and then he kind of almost imperceptibly nods with a small smile as he kind of dives out of the room underneath the overhang somewhere, out of sight. However, the entire hangar bay is completely an inferno at the moment, and you can hear overhead alarms sounding, so you can imagine that there are going to be people investigating shortly.
And now we have a witness saying that Glabo attacked.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Unless they actually did work for Glabo.
Hey man,
Yeah.
even if they do, underground pirates like this betray all the hopefully.
I saw no other way than leaving a surviving witness.
I kind of felt the same way.
Yeah, so, then I will use both my maneuvers to get to the door if talking to him was my end.
Yeah, at this point, you can safely escape. As you guys kind of make your way out of the hangar bay, you have to kind of slink around through some side corridors to find exactly where Isshwarr went to, because he kind of went out a side exit. But you rendezvous with each other, and in one of the side rooms, you guys both kind of drag this giant carbonite creature into an area that at least will be reasonably out of sight for the moment. And you have a moment to confer with each other. You do see a lot of commotion. There are a series of officers and various guards kind of running into the area. And you have a quiet little alcove in a side hangar to kind of have a moment to discuss what you're going to do.
That was a lot of collateral damage, but we succeeded in our goal.
I had no doubt. You were very much useful. Don't let anybody else tell you you're nothing more than a person. In my book, you're another Wookiee.
You see you once again see the jubilant text scrawling across his central photo receptor.
Happy emoticon.
Yes.
Oh, we need to... Is there any way... This thing's heavy as hell.
I could try to leave this room and pose as a regular maintenance droid and try to find a repulsor lift to transport him back to us.
Sure.
And I would say, actually, within 5 minutes of looking around, you'd easily find a repulsor lift unit to move him. You kind of are getting the impression that the heat, not just physically, but metaphorically, is kind of increasing in this area as more and more people are kind of crowding to the scene. You load up the carbonite Wookiee on a repulsor lift kind of like platform. And you throw a tarp over him so it's not totally obvious what you're transporting around. And you kind of move yourself out. I would like you to make, please, L3, either a skullduggery or stealth check of average difficulty to get out of the facility without entanglements.
Not deception.
Yeah, I'll allow deception. That's reasonable.
Actually, skullduggery and deception are the same. Can I use a force chip to upgrade it? Since why the hell not?
Why the hell not?
I used one there too, so that would be 2 dark dice. I can't move them over. Yeah,
You still have 3 left.
Upgrade 1. Since the force chip, and then I am rolling.
Yeah, boy.
3 success and a triumph. You guys are rolling amazing tonight. How many triumphs have you rolled? It's ridiculous. Good job.
That's 3 plus the one you left in my Wookiee pocket.
Yeah, it's like a triumph orgy. Okay, so basically you guys are able to safely get out, and not only that, you're able to make your way out of a back corridor undetected and find kind of like a transport vehicle to load it onto, and you're able to drive it back safely to your bay on the ship, which is on the other side of the facility. And you're able to load the carbonite Wookiee onto the errant seeker without difficulty, no questions asked.
Do we stow them in Jensen's chamber?
No, I think we should try and defrost him if we can.
What does Kip say when he sees
Oh, yeah,
a half-burnt Wookiee?
Before we get
I
to
would
that,
assume at that point, with all that going on, Jensen would have probably grabbed Kip by now.
Can I take a quick...
Well, Jensen, you're at the casino still, are you not?
Right.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, this was all happening at the same time we were having
This
that
is concurrent with you guys talking to Kushada, so...
LB, if you don't mind, I'll take a quick 3-minute break for a bio.
Oh, yeah, sure.
When you guys do get back to the errant seeker and Kip sees it, he says, "Who put that on the shopping list?"
I believe it was the Wookiee.
Okay, that's an odd thing to buy.
Let us say it wasn't exactly purchased, but liberated.
But you stole it.
Yes, liberation often deals with a lot of theft.
Okay.
And how are you doing, Master Kip?
I'm doing well.
Way to
I
change the subject. I
understand
love
now.
it.
They left you alone here? And you see L3's photoreceptor crane back and forth, trying to spot any other crew.
They did. I think they went to some place where my talents aren't needed, and I needed to stay behind to fix the broken door.
Given the general chaos that I've seen associated with these mercenaries, I would think your abilities would be useful in any situation, given the level of of course I messed up. Given the please edit this out, Albie.
The stuttering droid.
I can't for some
Adaptability.
reason. Thank you. Oh my god, I couldn't wrap my tongue up. Needed to survive.
Well,
Okay, I'm back.
but I don't think they're as good of an analysis of situations as you or I are.
They're organics. That is a legitimate assessment.
Not all organics are terrible at analysis,
Naturally.
but most.
Agreed. You are in the 3 percentile of that group.
1 percentile.
Oh snap!
Since he doesn't have any.
Have you ever
access to his
Have you ever been corrected before on your mathematics? I think this is a red letter moment.
It's like
Never.
and like you just see data scrolling across his photoreceptor. One 1% after the stuttering and delay. And then they just sit there in silence, staring at each other.
With a carbonite Wookiee on a frigging repulsor lift platform.
I'm sorry, what did I miss?
Oh, nothing.
Kip and L3 having a conversation.
Oh yeah, Kip's back on the ship. He would be excited because, well, not really excited. That's not so much Isshwarr's thing, but he'd be like, perfect man for the job. I need somebody to take care of my friend while I sit down and take a rest. Sits down and like starts looking for stim pack.
Kip has a stim pack. Kip literally hands you, like he sees like you're like limping and bloody. He hands you his stim pack.
That's
Okay.
twice, little man. I owe you. You
can
guys
add.
have become my friends.
You can add 5 wounds back, or remove 5 wounds.
Team Misfit gathered again.
So what are we gonna do with the carbonite figure?
I'm not good with these things. There's got to be a way to like get them out of there, isn't there?
Of course.
Well,
Elementary,
like,
my
get
dear
them out
Watson.
of there. Then
Well,
I'll probably break it.
It's worth noting
No.
Bioware has medical
Don't do that.
training.
Bioware is in the casino as well.
we can wait for Bar, or we can ask L3. Do you know any ways that clearly if this is a process to embed someone in carbonite, there is clearly a way to reverse the process.
It would
Do
be
I know
actually a simple computers or mechanics check to do that.
Master Kip, I think you have the requisite skills to handle this.
Okay. I will
I think
take
you
a little
are-
bit of time to study the carbonite figure. I go to my data pad, do a little bit of research, have a prolonged, one might call, argument with Remus about how to proceed.
You two are arguing like a married couple.
Basically, yes. And then he will roll his. He will center himself because he plans on using the force to roll this this mechanics check. I'm sorry. It's a what is it? Is it hard?
Sorry.
It's a
No,
medium?
easy. It's easy. 1 purple dice.
Oh, it's 1. Okay. Huh. That's weird. Hang on. I got the wrong thing.
By the way, is Remus translating
Yes.
Isshwarr?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he translates. Yeah.
You see both protocol droids doing it in tandem, and neither one seems to be wanting to relinquish that role.
They're just talking over each other.
Right, yeah, they're literally, and actually, you see them like every once in a while they choose a slightly different word, and you see Remus like whip his sort of ocular devices at you, and then goes back to talking to Isshwarr, while Kip is fiddling with the controls on the carbonite figure.
Isshwarr doesn't take sides. Whoa, dude.
Yes.
All right, so you basically roll 2 success, 5 advantage, and you get to add 2 extra success with your spell. So you completely, embarrassingly, awesomely deactivate the protocols on the carbonite device. So as you lean down and kind of you start playing with the keypad and dialing in some things. You've actually never done this before, but to you it's embarrassingly simple. And as you do, you start to see the console kind of like beep with a series of lights and various tones. You can kind of see some like whatever information about vitals that you're not interested in. And you just kind of activate the rapid defreeze protocol, and you see the center of the carbonite block kind of begin to glow red as the glowing kind of spreads over the entire body, and you hear kind of like this hissing sound as like steam and sort of like this deep freeze is rapidly reversed, and this kind of wet like disoriented large Wookiees laying on the repulsor lift platform. Fur's all matted. You see him laying flat, and he has predominantly gray and black fur. Again, he's just a shade taller than Isshwarr, maybe 3 to 4 inches taller than Isshwarr. Very considerably older than Isshwarr, but still stocky and muscled. You can see the fur on the right side of his face extending down to his shoulder and chest is completely missing, as if it was either damaged in battle or burned away and scarred and never returned. So there's sort of like half of his face and part of his upper chest that is bald and looks and scarred and looks kind of unusual. But in that area that is exposed that way, he had been kind of war painted, and you see kind of like streaks of symbolic tribal symbols and things like that painted on his face. And he opens his eyes for a moment and growls in a low growl, and as you look down at him, he's actually considerably wounded. You imagine they put him in carbonite to forestall him bleeding out or dying before they froze him. Obviously, whatever it took to take him down and immobilize him was a considerable battle. And he has a gashed wound in his left upper abdomen with kind of dark blood kind of oozing out of it. There seems to be like a fracture in one of his arms, and he kind of winces for a second, but he seems like mostly okay for the moment. And he opens his eyes and looks around, but it seems as if he can't quite see anything, and you hear him growl in kind of like a menacing, threatening manner. And in a deep baritone voice, he says, "My eyes deceive me. Who are you?" As he pushes himself back and kind of pushes his upper body up. And as he does, you see a gush of dark blood kind of ooze out of the wounds.
Says, "Relax, old timer. You're in a safe place." He's, of course, being another Wookiee language, he knows. Most likely it's probably another Wookiee. But you're heavily wounded.
You see his eyes close for a second in maybe relief or...
L3, do we have any...
I don't want to say
L3.
like pleasure, but he's relieved beyond words to hear the voice of a fellow Wookiee. And he turns in the general direction of where you're at because he can't quite see you at the moment. And he says, "What tribe are you?"
Oh, I gotta remember.
I could use know-it-all for you if you'd like.
Oh,
We
I
can
know.
retcon
It's...
that later. You relate to him your tribe, and although the two of you are not from the same tribe, he knows of your tribal leaders and your patriarchs.
Oh,
And he salutes.
Kachirio.
Okay, and he salutes you with his broken arm as he's holding himself up with the good arm, and you see kind of bending at an unnatural angle at the sort of like mid forearm, and he doesn't seem to be set back by it in the least. And as he pushes himself up, you see another gout of like dark blood kind of spill out of his abdominal wound, and he pushes himself up,
Do we
and
have
he
any
says,
more stim packs?
I'm gonna scour the. I don't. I'm gonna scour the errant seeker, looking for anything to either stim pack or to bind his wounds. And I'm gonna data pad Bior and say, "You're needed back on the ship. We have a wounded," or I say, not Carrick. Isshwarr has a wounded friend.
and as the Wookiee hears you say that, he turns to you and growls in like a deep voice, "I am no child to be tended to." Of course, you may not understand that, except for the fact that Remus repeats it for you with kind of like a surprised look on his face and in a little bit of an intonation in his beeps.
L3 does it calmly and without passion.
And he turns to you,
Remus
Isshwarr,
says in
and
binary, that's a poor translation.
he turns to you, Isshwarr, and he says, "Thank you, brother, for rescuing me."
It is what any true Wookiee would do. And the information was passed along by our mutual friend, and out of character, the human's memory is not as good. Well,
Geleth Hawk.
Galeth, yeah. Galeth sent me the information that you were on this planet. It was honor bound to save you.
A warrior's heart in that one. He always keeps his word. As he winces for a second and he looks in your direction again, kind of like a little off from your face because he's not exactly sure where you are, but he's just talking in your general direction. And he says, I am known as Spetogurra, war chief. I, like many others of my kind, fought and failed to liberate our homeworld of Kashyyyk. I have spent my blood and my kin to save our culture. But as you know, it was not to be. Instead, I devoted myself to take the war to the Empire anywhere and everywhere Not in our usual method of face-to-face combat, but from the shadows. Perhaps not with the honor that we are accustomed to, but I was determined to draw blood where I could, to give our people hope that it is not a lost battle until we truly give up. And he kind of like sighs defeatedly for a moment. And you see more bleeding out of his abdominal wound as he kind of puts his like claw over it, his kind of giant paw over it, and pushes inward. And the fur around it is kind of all matted and dark black from the like coagulated blood. And he looks in your general direction, Isshwarr, and he says, "As a warrior and a war chief, I have failed. I have lived to see my people's glorious culture and heritage torn down and our honor cast in shackles. Our brave warriors in chains, little more than slave labor for the war machine of the Empire. And I have spent my last years fueled entirely on hate, while empowering it does not bring honor, but eats you out as a husk from the inside, leaving little more than a mad mind clawing at those around him, desperate to draw blood. I have failed my clan." And he pauses for a moment, and almost stifling an emotional moment, which would be highly uncharacteristic for a Wookiee in this situation. And he says, "And I have lost my mate. She has been taken to the labor camps. What little is left of my life I can no longer devote to this cause, but rather I will spend it to either liberate my mate or die with honor seeking to." And he stops for a minute, and he feels around with his paw for where your arm is, Isshwarr, and after a moment he kind of finds your hand and then leads up to your arm.
For him.
And he grips your arm with this sort of like shocking degree of pressure and strength. And then, whereas he wasn't kind of looking correctly at you before, his eyes actually deadly meet your face in a perfect alignment. And he says, "There must always be a war chief. A Spetogurra, Isshwarr. Without a home and a culture, there must always be a symbol for our scattered warriors to look to for hope." And he pauses for a minute in pain and then regains his composure. "It is not enough to be strong, to be a great warrior. It is not enough to merely kill and tear down. To rekindle the dying flame of our culture requires more. You must build. You must inspire. You must draw back together the diaspora which has blown our people to the winds. A war chief leads, emboldens, strategizes, energizes, creates something greater than himself. He makes a tribe, a clan, a people." And he kind of grips your forearm when he says this. And he pulls off of himself what you've seen is, kind of this like glorious sort of armor. It doesn't, in Wookiee fashion, it doesn't really cover your whole body. It just sort of like key areas, and a lot of it is like ornament and strategic protection.
It's like a harness kind of thing.
Yeah, a harness except you see on it a lot of attachments. There's like spines on it and skulls and things that, have been attached to it. And you see him like pulling them off one by one. He like detaches the skull from around the back of his neck and head, and he throws it to the floor and smashes it. And he pulls these spines off and like breaks them over his knee. And all these like pieces on the armor, leaving mostly just the harness intact. And he pulls it off himself and he hands it to you, Isshwarr. And he says, "I strip this of all the trophies of my many battles. It is now an empty vessel ready to tell the heroic cycle of a new war chief who will reunite our people and bleed the Empire out like a predator does to its prey. We will reunite our people. Write this legend. You must defeat the most deadly opponents a warrior must face across this wide galaxy. Each mark on your journey, on this quest, is a leader in its own way, in its own tribe, a master of its own lethality. You must decipher the mysteries of what makes each opponent strong and overcome them. And in so doing, you will learn what makes them strong. Imbibe that strength and embody it to others, and they will follow you. I offer it to you as a way to serve your people, rather than wander this galaxy alone. If you choose to take up the mantle, face the challenges, incorporate the trophies into this regalia, it is yours to keep. If not, it is your right to go your own way, and Spetogurra dies today, and our people will find another way to rebuild our heritage. For I am no longer Spetogurra, but now Chalkaza. And Isshwarr, you would know those words kind of roughly translate to ghost hunter. And he says, I will spend what time I have left finding my mate, or finding death with honor. And he looks to you for a second and puts his hand on your arm and says, stand strong in these uncertain winds, like the mighty Rosha tree, and you will find your path. And he pushes himself up slowly. And it's the first time he's trying to stand, probably since he's been frozen in carbonite, but he doesn't want to look...
tries to help him up.
He pushes you away. He does not want to look weak. And he stands himself up for a minute and rights himself. And he walks down the plank and opens the gangway to the ship, and he looks back at you and says, if I survive, I will find you. And he looks down, and he picks up a data pad that he finds kind of in the lounge area, and he begins to madly type, and there's like blood he's smearing on the screen from his hands and stuff. Like, this guy's a wreck right now, but he will not show weakness to any of you. And after a good 5 minutes of uncomfortably watching him like smear blood all over the data pad as he's typing things in and stuff, he hands it to you, and he nods to you and puts a hand on your shoulder. And then he turns to kind of fumble his way towards the door, but kind of like hits the wall slightly because he can't quite see very well. And he steps back, and in a way, Isshwarr, it's like maybe a little sad or pathetic that you're seeing him reduced to this. But he straightens himself out after he figures out which way is clear and walks his way down the gangplank and fumbles his way towards the far end of the hangar bay and walks out the door. And you realize you have no real way to contact him, but he doesn't seem deterred.
Query.
And you see in your hands this sort of beautifully constructed harness set wrapping around the shoulders and chest, providing protection to critical areas. And there are sort of like these easy attachment points for a number of items that you can attach to it. And I'm going to transfer it to your inventory. And the armor is known as the War Chief's Primacy. And if you so choose, of course, you can utilize the armor at your will. And it will basically infer to you... I will put it to your inventory in just a second. Looking up its stats, it has an encumbrance of 3. It has 2 hard points for armor addition, and at base quality, it gives you 2 soak, which is similar to your padded armor. But as you kind of take a moment to inspect it, you can tell that it can be highly upgraded in the future. And as you examine the data pad he sent you, there's a list of creatures and locations, and not just creatures, some humanoids and things, which are widely regarded as some of the most deadly predators in the galaxy. And aside from the screen being smeared with kind of dark red Wookiee blood, you kind of hang on to the data pad as an indicator of should you choose to follow this, what the quest towards unlocking the armor's strength would be.
Query. Does he even know where he is?
I don't think so. But I'm not going to tell him otherwise.
I find that the most agreeable course.
We can be quite stubborn at times.
Kip said, did that old Wookiee just go to die?
I think he hopes so.
Isshwarr, hitting a very personal note to you, you can tell from what he told you that either he intends to save his mate from the labor camps or die trying.
Or die. Right, yeah. He has a very similar story to mine. Only his perhaps has hope.
And yours does not?
Only in the fact that I might get to see the Empire fall. That would be my hope.
And by the way, Isshwarr, as out of character background information, you would readily know this from your cultural background and your veterancy from the Clone Wars. He was part of a elite resistance team that would frequently, viciously and violently strike out at any vulnerable Imperial operation anywhere, frequently murdering everyone that they would find. Mostly in a public display of embarrassment to the Empire, but also just to provide a public
show of force.
Public show of hope that the Wookiee people have not been cowed completely into servitude. As for his team, you've heard no mention of them. You assume perhaps they are no longer living, but there was a group of about 10 to 15 members of his resistance band.
Kip, I can't say we brought you anything after all of this, and you've been of much help.
You brought me new armor I can study. That's a fun.
You may look at it as you please. What
Thank
is
you.
mine is yours. And if you
I
ever
will
need
not.
me, you know you can count on us.
Yes. Thank you. You can count on me too.
You
I know I
rely-
can. You have already proven yourself a worthy ally and warrior to me.
Oh, and Isshwarr, as an out of character as well, I will be adding to your character sheet as a free specialization tree, the War Chief's Primacy tree. You are free to pursue it or not. It will not cost you additional experience. It's going to be granted to you, but moving down the tree further will cost you experience if you choose to.
Okay. Can you remove that missile from my character?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Aw, it's traveled so long. We need to get another one of those.
Yeah,
That was
we
a
need-
legendary
we need-
missile.
We need some artwork for the missile. Right, like a
Yes,
in
if we
memory
could get some
kind of-
fan art for the legendary C-88 fragmentation missile that's been carried across the entire campaign and had a triumph party as it annihilated everyone in that chamber, that would be glorious.
He was a booming success.
I see what you did there. Okay, so why don't we actually wrap it here? What we'll do, we're meeting actually next Tuesday, I think it's the 12th, if my math is correct, for the continuation of our group sort of adventure. We'll pick up with the crew in the casino and decide if the group wants to reconvene, and it will be roughly, just for your estimation, it'll be roughly 9 or 10 p.m. equivalent time, and you have till 10 a.m. the next morning to kind of find sponsorship before the opening ceremony begins. I'll leave that for you guys to think about. And that will wrap up our show for this evening. Join us in a few weeks' time when we pick up with the rest of the party in their adventures in the illustrious Del Kaino Grand Casino on Nar Shadaa, where they will meet a mysterious and powerful Black Sun mob boss. More to come. Have a great week in the meantime. Take care.